Howdy, my fellow wooden watters. Well, it's finally arrived. Being slowed down, unfortunately, by the gift of COVID, my giant electric pool table is here and installed. This machine is big enough to take a full-size sheet of plywood that's 8 foot by 4 foot, or to use the old-fashioned measurements, 2400 millimeters by 1200 millimeters, with 4 inches to spare at each end and each side, just in case for some reason the material gets bigger. Now, because this machine is new to me and the way it works is sort of foreign to my experience, I figured I'd start on a relatively simple project. So here I've got a sheet of 12 millimeter, about 1/2 inch thick ply, sitting on top of 3/4 inch ply that's going to be used as a sort of spoil board to protect the bed of the machine, which is also fitted with vacuum pods, if I can get that out of there. All along here, down the other side, and in the middle too, there's these vacuum ports. What you do is you use a vacuum device and the controls on the management module here to pull the work down. But I tend to go with passive approach because it's quieter and less energy consuming. So instead I use these little hold down devices to secure the work. Over here is the vacuum cleaner that came with this machine. Currently not in use, it's ready to go when the time comes. So a 4-inch vacuum port right here, the other two are capped. Hose going to the collection and filtering. In practice, that would go over to here. Then up to the rafters, where it would be suspended on flexible couplings, I guess bungee cords, things like that. In order to facilitate this machine though, I have had to finish a few other things. So I've lined out the entire place now, which took a fair old while, I'll say. And I've also been laying out the electrical parts. As you can see, it ain't finished yet, got a fair bit to go. But at least now I have a light switch. In the past that used to be in the worst possible place and hidden from view. You had to hunt around in the dark to find it, way over there. So a couple more fittings have to be applied once the camera unblurifies. Ah, yeah, that figures. But imagine that's focused. That's better, ish. Another outlet there. Once I've got that done, I can put the laser engraver or the laser guided toaster oven back into service. It used to be here, but I've had to move that in order to facilitate this rather huge machine. That's 3 odd meters long and weighs about 1.2 tonnes. So yep, carrying that on my back was not easy, or possible for that matter. Let's just have a look-see at the controllings. Things are very different from what I'm used to. I'm used to a computer screen running a program called Mac 3 and pushing buttons on a computer screen, on a keyboard that is, in order to manipulate the machine. It's different from this in that you have a pendant here that does that. Runs the program on a memory stick you insert here to complete the cutting operation, designed on yonder computer, which I'll show you in a momento. So if we want to move an axis X, Y, Z, we can push these buttons, or any combination of them for that matter really. So if I move the y-axis and the x-axis together, tried stopping this, and no, it won't stop. So there's a good chance I'll get squashed flat if I'm not careful. Yeah, let's have a look at some of the other things. That lets us know our position relative to where we were before. And if I use the 0 function, just got to remember which sequence to push. After all, this is all new to me. Home all. Okay. So right now the machine is returning to its home position, which just happens to be to the left and at this end of the machine. It's an automated process. So that's what the machine considers home. Good thing is though, because CNC machining is all relative as opposed to absolute, I will be designating that point there that I've marked as home for this workpiece. Let's have a quick look-see on the computing machine as to just how this workpiece will look. That's it right there. Let's see if I can get the exposure on the camera just right. So we're starting out with a piece of wood, basically. Let's see, reset preview. So, piece of wood, about 600mm square. And I have a set of tool paths down here that I've established from a drawing that I created this morning. That drawing includes outlines, drill holes and recesses so the parts will fit together. My first little project on this is to make a stand for the computer. Basically it raises the computer off the deck and inclines it about 15ish degrees towards the operator. So if I preview all tool paths, we'll see what it does. What it did there was it showed what the machine will do in the sequence I selected. So in my sequence I drill all the holes first, then create these recesses for the parts to fit together, and then finally do the outline cut, complete with tabs so you can break the pieces out, sort of like those models that you glue together. And that will all be made out of that 1/2 inch or 12mm plywood that I've got there. What I do have to worry about though is these hold downs. I've got to make sure I don't get a collision between the cutting tools and those fasteners. In today's choice of tools, 1/8 inch or 3mm end mill and 1/4 inch or 6mm end mill. The little one will be digging all the holes for the screws to hold him together with. And this one will be doing everything else that you saw on the computer. So the next little old thing is to mount the first of the tools, this little one here, and center it up with the workpiece and call that 000, X, Y and Z respectively. The first of the tool paths has been prepared for the machine, and I've taken the rest of the dust guard off in order to reveal the little 1/8 inch or 3mm router bit in there. So if I push the right buttons on here, let's see that one, the menu tells me I have the choice of these things, in this case the external disc, so to speak, a disc. The path I'm going to be cutting, assuming I can get the reflections off the screen here, the screws NC. You're allowed only 6 letters for the name, so I can't really describe it as well as I'd like. And okie dokie, let's see how it goes. There it goes. This program runs rather slowly as I've set some very conservative tool paths. It gives me more time to react if I've made a mistake. After all, this is my first time operating this machine. So that's cutting holes 13mm deep to go right through the board into the spoil board behind it. It's also drilling into the back of the material, so that way the clean side is untouched until I go to assemble it. Well, that's the theory anyway. Now if I got this right, this would end up going together like flat pack furniture. You think I care? I guess you don't. But anyway, if I've got it right, it'll go together once everything's finished. And I can take all the pieces off and then just assemble them. We'll see about that. At least I've got an excuse if I've got it wrong. Stay tuned. The holes have been drilled for the screws that will fasten this together, and I've inserted the 6mm close to 1/4 inch tool. Couple of little things to check. Just make sure that X, Y and Z have been zeroed again, because that is my new workplace reference after all. And the next thing to do is to select an item from the memory device. And let's see, screws have been screwed. Time for the socket set now. That reflection is quite a pain to the camera. So, let's see, socket. Ready to go. Let's see. Push some buttons. Start. Looks like I've set way too slow a path here for the tool, but I can cheat and select my feed rate. Or can I? I thought I could, but maybe not. Well, that's about as slow as a snail with a broken leg. See if it'll let me increase the speed rate. No such luck. Oh well, what I may do is see if I can interrupt this and reset the speed at which it travels, because that's a bit slow. Okie dokie. I've reissued the instructions for this part of the process. Turns out I had a couple of things mixed up. Hey, I'm no expert. Not on this machine anyway. So, the disc is back on. You can call it a disc. Rectangular disc. Take my word for it. Okie dokie. So, U-disc file. Select the socket. And push okie dokie, the okie dokie button, and pray to the CNC gods. Right, that's going a bit faster now, 1200mm per minute instead of 300. Yeah, that's much better. And yes, I could go a lot faster than that. But I'll settle for this low speed right now because it's safe. Gives me more time to react if the manure hits the turbine. This process will take quite a while to complete, so I'll bring you back when the boring bits are done. Just to be on the safe side, I shifted 4 of those hold down screws, and now it is time to bring the machine back to the origin point of this workpiece and initiate Operation Make a Hole. So, U-disc file, select outline and push the okie donkey button, then pray to the CNC gods. It's going to take a while to get around, but it pays to watch the first pass on the cut, just to see where the danger points are. Looks like I didn't level my workpiece very well. As you can see, the router bit has come out of the work. Not a problem, since it's a standard through cut anyway. Whoa, that was close. Yeah, missed that fastener by about 1/8 of an inch. And actually gets really close to the one that I forgot to move. So in about a week that should be finished. Stay tuned. Okie dokie, the process is nearly at its end. A little bit more to go and the last of the cutting should be finished. and we're done. Now, assuming I got that right, this has gone right through, hopefully, where it needs to, so I don't have to cut anything separately. I could try to test that. As long as I can do it without moving this relative to that, it should be okie dokie. Talking of prime movers, this cabinet here is the control system for this behemoth of a machine. Amazing, this machine weighs as much as my little excavator does. I don't want to find out the hard way how much it weighs. But yeah, we've got some basic controls. Emergency stop, that also is the power turn off function. This one turns it on. We've got pop-up control here. I'll show you what that is in a moment. And there's also the rotary selector. The rotary selector basically allows you to have something resembling a lathe situated on the machine. I think it goes this way. Or was it that way? One way or the other. Yeah. You also have the touch sensor for the tool height here. You place that on the workpiece, and the machine drops the tool onto it, makes contact, and establishes the tool height. But I'm happy to do that manually. That pop-up thing that you saw before is these. There are a number of them situated around the machine's perimeter on the loading side, and they're driven by air, which is delivered down there. All of these pop up when you activate that switch in order to allow you to very quickly drop a board into place for processing. So if you're doing production work on the machine, you use that feature to very quickly place the work. Once again though, I'm perfectly happy to settle for manual placement of the workpiece, or use other methods. That way I don't need to dedicate a compressor to the machine. Round the other side, I didn't actually show you, is where the vacuum hold down control system is. So down here you've got a vacuum gauge and some gate valves, ball valves that is, a couple more ball valves and another gauge over there, and they're set up according to which portion, which corner, which end, which quadrant of the table they affect. I don't believe I'll really be using that feature, but it's nice to know that it's there. Talking about the things not yet fitted, still in their packaging, there's a cage that attaches here and there, and the same at the other end of the gantry. It rises up and over the top of the Z-axis housing and down the other side, forming what looks like a giant handle. At each end of the gantry also are a set of bumper bars. Going around here, they're made of relatively soft material. So if you run into this while trying to get across the machine shop to answer the phone or whatever, you have something a bit softer than cold, hard, unforgiving metal to hit. Over here, the exact function of it isn't entirely clear, but I can put an automatic tool changer here if I so desire. But yet again though, once again, perfectly happy to go with manual. Talking of which, talking of manual, and that explains the oil drips here. I got a bit carried away with it. Put some oil in here and operate the lever. What it does is it pressurizes oil through this manifold and out through plumbing like this, which you can see here for example, to oil up the slideways, X, Y and Z axes. I got the X-axis one there, Z-axis one's over here, and I got a little bit overzealous with it, squirting oil, and as a result it's had a bit of a drip session. So pays to keep that in mind next time I go through the lubrication process on the machine. Probably settle for a manual system, so maybe instead of using that I'd be having an oily rag and a little oil dripper, so as I can deliver precise amounts while at the same time cleaning the slideways and getting the dustic charm off them. So that's the state of affairs with the CNC. Machining is fun, residents of noisy things. I think the next thing I'll do is check to see whether the workpiece has been fully cut out, just in case. At first glance it looks like it's been right through, so probably okie dokie, but hopefully I can assemble this thing and not embarrass myself in front of the camera. Finally, after all these years, Operation Cut the Bit of Plywood, their original name, no one could imagine what that really means, has been completed. So we have all these kit set parts here held on by tabs into the stock material, and it's just a matter of breaking them out now and assembling them like those Airfix models. I guess the moment of truth is approaching. Did I get the design right, or did I foul something up? I guess we'll never know. Oh, I'm pleased to report that it went together very nicely indeed. My only mistake really was being a bit careless when I was breaking the pieces out. As you can see, the tabs tore off some of the material here. But I guess I've learned my lesson, to be a bit more careful, or to program the tabs with a bit more consideration. But the pieces have gone together quite nicely. These triangular pieces fit into the slots that were cut there to line things up, so you can see how they fit into that slot. It's the same way all the way along. Gives it strength and keeps things lined up. Plus also it supports the timber, stopping it from splitting when the screws are driven into it. Same here, a recess here with the nose of this panel pressed into it, so as the screws that hold it can't split it. Now the moment of truth, I guess, is to see what the computer thinks of it. Computer, meet your new stand. Delicious. Got myself a little herd of horses there, they'll never catch me. But that there does the job very nicely. Raises the computer to a sensible working angle and makes good use of scrap plywood. Talking of which, I got a truckload of scrap plywood and some steel for that matter, which I can use well. This was in a giant crate on the back of a really large high-ab truck, and I'd love to have got video of that, but it was all hands on deck during delivery, so I couldn't do it. But they lifted this huge box off the back of the truck, dismantled it. I collected all the pieces on my own truck and took them round to the shearing shed for storage. And that there is going to become a supply of practice scraps, I guess you'd say, for this machine. My next thing to do is to make another one of these, pretty much the same, but hopefully refined a little bit, so the mistakes I made here aren't repeated. And a couple more for use in the house, but they'll be footrests instead. So basically the same inclined design, but bigger and beefier, with some sort of thermal insulation on there, so you can put your feet on it in the house on a cold day without having to lose heat to the tile floor. As she's a bit chilly this time of year, it's winter and all, and it's kind of sub-zero, not the nicest sort of thing. But yeah, I'll say that this success with the CNC machine has definitely warmed me up for the day. Guess what? It makes horses too. Let's have a look, eh? Well, I am on a farm after all, so I will need horses. Okay, my fellow wooden watters, engineering enthusiasts, CNC addicts, have yourselves a good one. Keep the watts a-flowing, my fellow addicts. Ciao for now.